this morning, and we give you Dr. Michael Drake.
So thank you. I'm Michael Drake. I'm the president of the Ohio State University. I'm surrounded here by colleagues from state and city government and from our university, both from our public safety community and from physicians here from our Wexner Medical Center. So as you are all well aware, we had an awful incident this morning where an individual drove on to a sidewalk, striking several individuals, and then exited the vehicle with a knife and cut and or stabbed other individuals before being encountered by one of our campus police officers who commanded the individual to drop his weapon, and upon not following those commands, the individual was neutralized by our officer. The original victims were struck by the car at approximately 9:52 this morning. The officer encountered the individual by 9:53, and the subject was neutralized by 9:53. At 9:55, a campus alert went out for people on campus to shelter in place. First to exit and avoid the circumstances or the place where this all happened, so they learned where it was and were told to run and hide and get away from the circumstances as we trained for in desktops and other exercises. They did that. They got to secure places, and then forces from a variety of local law enforcement from our campus community, from our city, and from the state joined us together, and the FBI joined together on campus to sweep the campus to make sure that there was no further threat. And then approximately 90 minutes later, the buildings were released. I have here with me the people who were directly on the scene, and they'll speak in a moment. I just want to say that first, I had a chance to speak with the officer who was the first responder, and to thank him for following his training and being able to neutralize the circumstances within roughly 1 minute. And also, I was able to visit 3 of the people who were injured who are here in the hospital to let them know how much we are praying and supporting them in coming to a complete and speedy recovery. The ones who were here in the hospital were in good spirits. I know that a couple of people are having more work done, and I think that Dr. Thomas can give you updates on that. But our thoughts and prayers are with them, and we are pleased that no one was more seriously injured, and look for them all to recover completely shortly. Let me move out of the way and give you Monica Mall, who's our Director of Public Safety. Monica.
Just give you a brief timeline of events this morning. That we had at 9:52, the officer involved called out that a car had hit about 7 to 8 pedestrians. This happened at 9:52, called on the radio into the dispatch center. Again, just a few seconds later at 9:52, the officer called out to a call that indicated officer in trouble, that there was a man with a knife. At 9:53, that same officer called out that there were shots fired and that he had 1 person down. And that is when the officer engaged the suspect. And so the suspect drove his vehicle into a group of pedestrians. There were some injuries that resulted from that. The suspect then got out of the vehicle with a knife and began cutting individuals in the area. And the officer engaged the suspect and fired shots and used deadly force to stop the threat. The threat to safety was ended at that time. Several other law enforcement agencies responded in addition to OSU PD and began to surround the area. We also followed up on other possibilities and other leads that were going on. The Lane Avenue parking garage, there was a rumor that there might have been another potential threat there. That was thoroughly searched, and that turned out not to be true. We'd like to share with you today the officer's name who we all owe a debt of gratitude to. He did a fabulous job today. He is a 28-year-old officer named Alan Peruchko. He has been with OSU PD since January of 2015, so not quite 2 years. And the suspect's name, we can confirm that the suspect was an OSU student named Abdul Razak Ali Artan. We do not have any information at the moment on motive. The investigation is ongoing in that regard. Some information or updates about the patients.
I also want to say, there's several people who are joining me on stage. I'm not going to mention everyone, but I want to say that support we've received from the city, and the city is represented here by Mayor Andy Ginther, support from the state, and our Governor Kasich is with us, and also our representative from Congress, Joyce Beatty, is here this afternoon. So just wanted to mention those people, and then have maybe Andy come and give us an update on the status of our patients.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Thomas. I'm Chief Medical Officer here at the OSU Wexner Medical Center. A brief update on the individuals involved in this situation that were both brought here, as well as to 2 other hospitals in the city. We've had 6 total individuals that have either been brought here by EMS or have come in on their own. Earlier today, that number was 5. Since our press conference earlier today, we've had 1 additional victim who was hit by the car, who came in with some musculoskeletal injuries and is currently being assessed downstairs. Beyond that, there were 2 stab victims, 2 other victims of having been hit by the car, and then 1 other victim with some lacerations that we're working on. There are 2 patients that were taken to Riverside Methodist Hospital, just north of campus. Both of those individuals were struck by the car. One has orthopedic injury, and the other actually has a minor neurologic injury with a skull fracture, is being observed but is awake and talking and appears to be stable from what I'm told by my colleagues there. There are 2 individuals that were taken to Grant that I mentioned earlier today with lacerations, and then 1 additional patient that has shown up at Grant Hospital who was a victim of being hit by the car, who had an orthopedic injury and has since been discharged from their emergency department. With that, I'll turn things back over to you.
I think maybe Chief Stone has some more specific information about the incident. Chief Stone.
Thanks, President Drake. We have a very elaborate camera system on the campus, and we went back and checked video, and we were able to pick up the vehicle, suspect vehicle, entering campus on Kenny Road and Woody Hayes Drive. And we were able to backtrack and follow that vehicle all the way to the crime scene. So we actually have the vehicle on Woodruff. And we also have the vehicle on 19 before the incident occurred. So I just want to thank all of our officers for the fine job that they do, also our communications people. And by tracking this vehicle down, we could tell that the suspect was in the car by himself. And also, I appreciate the response by the city, county, the state, and our federal partners who are assisting us in this ongoing investigation. Thank you.
I think that's the information. If there is a question.
Are you convinced right now that he was acting alone and not in concert with anyone else anywhere?
Well, I'll let law enforcement answer that.
This is an ongoing investigation. I can tell you today that we can prove to you that the suspect was by himself in the vehicle and committed this act by himself today. It's an ongoing investigation to determine motive and if anybody else was involved in this act.
Could we get spellings of the officer's name as well as the assailant?
The suspect's name, first name is spelled A as in Adam, B as in boy, D as in dog, U as in Union, L as in Lincoln. Abdul Razak, that's R, and Robert, A as in Adam, Z as in zebra, A as in Adam, K. Allie is the next name, A as in Adam, L as in Lincoln, I as in Ida, and then the final name is Arton, A as in Adam, R as in Robert, T as in Tom, A as in Adam, N as in Nora. Abdul Razak Ali Arton.
Chief, what have you learned about him so far that you can share with us?
We can tell you the suspect is an OSU student.
Is there any indication that he has been involved in anything terrorist related prior to this?
Ongoing investigation.
And let me also just thank this. I appreciate that. Let me just ask for a moment. We have the governor and the mayor here. Just I'd like to say just a word here, and also Congresswoman Beatty. So just
Governor, what do you have to say to the people of Ohio and here in
Well,
Columbus?
look, I this morning I talked to Dr. Drake, obviously. I want to thank our first responders who did a remarkable job. I mean, when you think about this timeline, I think from, was it 9:52 to 9:54, it shows how much practice, how much training, how much expertise, and how much coordination has existed with the campus police, the Columbus police, the FBI, the SRT, which is our special unit at the Highway Patrol, the county sheriff. I mean, there was amazing coordination, and the speed at which these folks were able to come together. Think about what this incident, what this tragedy could have meant. A man with a butcher knife and who knows what else. I don't know what else he may have. You know, think about driving a car into a bunch of people. Think if you were standing out there with, you know, the terrible stuff you would see. And fortunately, from what I'm understanding from both doctors here, that they expect a full recovery. So when you think about the students, when you think about the parents, many of whom were, of course, texting and Snapchatting their kids, you know, it is remarkable what these first responders did. I mean, there'll be a lesson for all across America and all the campuses across America about what you do when things like this happen. And as Dr. Drake mentioned, you know, these tabletop exercises are not to be taken lightly. It's the same way we feel about our high schools, our K through 12 schools, all of which need to be taken more seriously by everybody in the field. You know, the other thing I would tell you is I thought about this early this morning, and actually have a goddaughter that goes to school here who got off the plane, heard the situation, actually came to my home. She, I believe, is now returned to campus. This is where I started. I mean, this is where I wandered as an 18-year-old into the president's office. It was a time when I walked in, before we even had the stands out there, Dr. Drake, I remember walking into the Horseshoe and standing at the 50-yard line and looking around at this unbelievable place. You know, I served as an orientation leader. My first big meeting in politics came through Novice Fawcett. The Oval. There's just nothing like the Oval. There's nothing like Orton Hall. This is just an incredible and magnificent place. So when I heard that this morning, of course, I right away thought about the stab wounds, perhaps the gunfire, and frankly took a piece out of everybody here at our beautiful Ohio State University that this could have happened here. But we are a strong, tough, resilient community. And when we think about, as we like to say now, the Ohio State University, it's just not the students who go to school here that count. It's anybody who ever touched this place, who will think and be affected by what happened today. And we're all going to be extremely, extremely grateful that we're going to have full recovery. And there will be a lot of questions about who, why, how, when, all this. You know, I think we have to respect law enforcement and their ability to do their job. The FBI is assisting with local, and the campus police, the Columbus police are the lead investigators. We're helping at the Highway Patrol with any of the things that need to be investigated. But the FBI has a partnership. They've not taken over this investigation. They have great respect for the work of the campus police and the Columbus Police Department. So we're not going to rush to try to figure things out. I know that's your job. And frankly, it's our job to say, let the investigation take its due course. And at the end of the day, we will find out what happened. We may never totally find out why this person did what they did or why they snapped. We may never find out, but we're going to have a lot more information. And I think I would be joined by Dr. Drake in saying we right now have to have patience. The campus will reopen tomorrow. The campus is calm. People are getting their confidence back. And Ohio State will be stronger, having come through this. And we will have learned a lot. And I can promise you, from the president of our university to the people that run security here, they will even up their game beyond what is really just an unbelievable, amazing, and outstanding and heroic performance on the part of our first responders.
Thank you. I'm Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, and let me just say my remarks would mirror all that our governor has just said. Like my colleagues here, I had the opportunity to talk with President Drake and to his governmental staff team earlier this morning. I'd be remiss if I did not thank the medical team and also the multi-agency police force. But let me also add to that the alert system. What was so incredibly unique and life-saving was the alert system that students got that message and they acted appropriately. Those things don't just happen. Let's not take that lightly. To this administration, I say thank you for planning and being prepared, and that's what happens when you have something as awful as this. The students did not overreact. They called one another. I got calls from students, and like the governor, all the places that we saw on TV were very fresh in my mind from spending 4 years here recently as a senior vice president, going in that garage, going by those buildings. So I say thank you to you, President Drake, to you, Andy Thomas, to you, Eric Atkins, and certainly to our police chief and to the mayor and all of your fine officers. And I'm so proud that I can stand here with Chief Jacobs and say thank you for your leadership, and to you also, Dr. Gretchen. Thank you.
Andy Ginther, Mayor of the City of Columbus. Today is one of those days we're grateful for good training and great people across the board. President Drake and I had the opportunity to meet with the outstanding young law enforcement officer earlier this afternoon and some of the victims here at the OSU Medical Center. We want to give thanks for outstanding men and women who continue to take on some of the biggest challenges in our communities in law enforcement. It's never been a more dangerous or complicated and challenging time to be a police officer. And we had a dynamic, well-trained professional today save the lives of many of our residents and students. And to the outstanding professionals here and at hospitals throughout our city and the first responders, that when difficult, challenging tragedies take place in our communities, they're raising and running right into the heart of the danger. And so we say thank you to them. You know, Columbus is a very special place, and Ohio State is a major reason why we are so special. And so I ask the people of Columbus to continue to lift up those involved in their thoughts and prayers, the victims, their families, for the collective community. This is a diverse, welcoming, and warm community where we welcome people from all over the world. And that is what makes us so special. And so I ask for everyone to continue to lean in, pray for one another, to look out for one another, and make sure that we continue to focus on what brings us together as opposed to what divides us. President Drake.
Thanks very much. I think we have a few minutes for...
Two points of clarification. Could you have the spelling of the name of the police officer and also confirm that there was 11 victims total, 6 at OSU, 2 at Riverside, and 3 now at Grant? Is that a total of 11 victims?
That's right.
Correct. There were 6 now total here at Ohio State, 2 at Riverside, and 3 at Grant.
And the spelling of the police officer's name, please.
Officer's name is Alan Haruchko. Alan is common spelling, A-L-A-N. Haruchko is H is in Henry, O is in Ocean, R is in Robert, U is in Union, J is in John, K is in King, and O is in Ocean.
How long had he been on the force?
Since January 11th of 2015.
What was his rank?
He's an officer, police officer.
Chief Jacobs,
Chief
can you
Stone,
say why there are
talk
some
about the video
people
that-
outside the suspect's house?
Chief Jacob, yeah, here, do that question first.
Hi. Can you say why there are police officers outside around the suspect's house?
There's interviews to be had. Talk to anybody that he might have associated with, find out what they knew, waiting on a search warrant to go in and search the property.
Yes, I'm wondering, you talked about the video, that existed to track the car. Do you have video of the actual event of the confrontation and the shooting?
At this time, I have video of the suspect coming on campus and coming to the scene. I have not looked at that video yet. Still being investigated.
Were any other weapons found in the car?
Case is still being investigated.
Was the suspect known to any mental or medical staff here at OSU, any prior knowledge of him before this incident?
The only information we can share at this time in regards to the suspect that he was an OSU student.
And how old?
I believe 20.
How many victims are still here at this hospital?
And could you also break out whether they're students or staff here, if you know that?
So I know that for most of the individuals. So here at the Wexner Medical Center, there was one individual who was a faculty member. There were two individuals who were graduate students. One individual who was an undergraduate student, and I do not know the affiliation of the last individual who arrived. I believe two of the individuals at Ohio Health Hospitals were undergrad students and two were graduate students, and I do not know the affiliation of the third person who's arrived. Oh, yes, I apologize. And one of them was, who's here at the medical center, is also a staff member of the university in our traffic and parking department, which is separate from the police department, but does similar functions with just traffic and parking.
I'm wondering too if the chief has determined if the fire alarm, sounding of the fire alarm, turned out to be a coincidence in this, or is that still under investigation as a possible tie?
We believe that was a separate incident, and actually it was fortunate that didn't happen. It helped the officer be in the right place at the right time. He was able to see this whole thing happen and take immediate action.
Age of the suspect?
That needs to be confirmed, but we believe he was born in '98, but we are looking to confirm that information.
So the officer was responding to the original fire alarm call, I guess because of natural gas leak or something to that effect?
And he had cleared that call, and then this happened right before his eyes.
How long has the suspect been about the vehicle, making model, or any information?
It's an ongoing investigation. We haven't released that information.
Could you talk to us, Dr. Drake, about, you met with some of the victims. Can you tell me a little bit more about that meeting and how were they doing and what were they telling you?
Yeah, I'm pleased to say that I was able to see 3 of the people who were injured, and the injuries were not life-threatening. They were actually, all 3 patients were alert and in good spirits, actually joking a bit in some cases. So I think that they were the combination of sort of shock, relief to have something awful like this that you witness, and then realize, my goodness, you're actually hurt, but then be very grateful that the injury is not more serious. So I was able to do that. Actually, one of the victims who was one of our students, her mother was here having arrived, and so I was able to talk to her mother, who was much calmer having arrived than she had been, hearing that there had been an injury. But this was a student who was injured and then waited an hour and a half until the building was clear before bringing herself here. And so it's just very nice to see that they weren't hurt more seriously. I'm in the hospital on a regular basis and see people, and it's nice to see patients who are at least relieved enough to be smiling, and I was pleased to see that.
What does that say about the resiliency of students and staff here at OSU?
Well, I'd say first that students and staff and their families, and our faculty member, who was a more senior faculty member, all had that resiliency to know that things happen, unfortunately, like this, and that what's most important after that is that we're able to respond appropriately, and so I felt very good about that community spirit. Also, the student who waited to come was comforted by her classmates or by other students during the time that we were holding the campus on lockdown, and luckily she wasn't injured so seriously she felt she needed an ambulance at that time, but she thanked them. And one of the other students who came in was brought in by another student, one of the people who had a laceration. They didn't know each other, but she just helped to bring him here to the hospital and just wanted to be with him to give him support. So our community comes together very nicely. And as I mentioned to you earlier, we have every year, at least, we do an extensive tabletop exercise with senior staff, and then we orient students about what to do in case there's an awful circumstance like this. And it was good to see that people responded as we wished that they would. And as I said, we're thankful that injuries were not more severe. I wish this had never happened, but injuries not more severe. The only one, of course, who had suffered fatal injuries was the sailor.
What about the suspect of parents outside the Columbus area can't really get to their kids, a message to those parents, confidence of their kids?
You know, we have sent out several messages electronically, and luckily in this day and age, people tend to be nicely connected. So the student who I spoke to was actually on the phone with her mother for over an hour before she got in. Her mother lived a couple hours away and drove in the whole time, but they were able to be in conversation. And we have certainly encouraged all of the people who were victims to be able to contact their family members, and then for all family members and students to be able to let each other know that they're safe. And I think that's been happening throughout the afternoon. We sent out another message about this about an hour and a half or so ago to, again, reassure people that the situation was stable, but we wanted them to be in touch with their families. We have been a hotline for parents to call. I don't know that number, but I know within the message we sent out, but if you can't reach your student, a place to call in and be able to get information.
Can you say if the suspect is from the United States?
You know, I know nothing more about the suspect than you, and I know, well, this is fresh, and we'll learn more of the day.
And how long was he a student at Ohio State?
Again, I heard that this was his first semester with us, but allow us to continue to look at those records to make sure we don't learn anything else.
And Dr. Drake, any worry that there could be any backlash? What would you say to your learning community here to make sure that there's no backlash on any particular population?
You know, we all know when things like this happens that there's a tendency sometimes for people to put people together and create other kinds of theories. We don't know anything that would link this to any community. We certainly don't have any evidence that would say that's the case. And what we want to do is really unify together, support each other, do our best to support those who were injured in their recovery, and then allow the investigation to take place and not jump to conclusions of things that could, in fact, create a bad situation where one doesn't exist. Let me say how much I appreciate all of you being here today, and thank you very much.